Welcome to Saulcast. This is a special mid-season break edition. There was a screening of Season 6, Episode 8 at the Tribeca Film Festival a few weeks before that episode will premiere on AMC, July 11th, and we were there. So, who is this guy? Adam is out of town, couldn't make it to the premiere, so I brought on my other younger brother,
Daniel. Nice to meet everyone.
And in case you're new here, I'm Gil. So we're going to talk about our experience at the premiere. We're going to talk about the episode, but I'll say right now, there will be no spoilers. We will talk about our overall feelings toward the episode, but if you are extremely spoiler averse, if you're a listener of Saulcast and you know that Adam is extremely spoiler averse, if you're an Adam, don't worry, we'll warn you before we say anything that even the most sensitive person might consider slightly spoilery or spoilerish. We'll give fair warning. But generally speaking, what are we going to talk about? Our experience at the premiere, general feelings toward the episode, and after they screened the episode, there was a panel with Peter Gould, Gordon Smith, who wrote the episode, Bob Odenkirk, Ray Seahorn, and Tony Dalton. So we'll also talk about some cool insights, some fun tidbits that came out of the panel. With that, Daniel, should we get into this?
Let's do it.
So it's a weird, I've been spending the last couple days, actually I guess it's been about 24 hours since we were at the premiere. I've spent a lot of that time thinking, how are we going to talk about this? Because generally speaking, what is the point of a spoiler-free review? It's, should you go see this thing or not? So first off, Daniel, for fans of Better Call Saul, should they watch this episode when it premieres on July 11th?
I don't know. That's a tough call.
Yeah, I think we could say up front, I really liked the episode. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was awesome. Please definitely go see it.
Yeah, when it airs, I think you should watch it. I wouldn't stop watching Better Call Saul halfway through the final season. And I'll say, I'm not going to say how much I liked it, because it's a weird thing where I love this show. And if you're a listener of Saulcast, you've never heard me say, I didn't like this episode. The only times I say I loved this episode is if the episode did something extraordinary or something really surprising, and you don't want to know if something surprising happened or not.
Yeah, so if people think it was a spoiler when I said it was awesome, I think everything's awesome, especially all Better Call Saul things, so not a spoiler.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no track record of your opinions,
yeah.
So it's fine. But for me, I'll say I liked it at least as much as every other episode of Better Call Saul I've seen. But that's saying something. There are plenty of shows. I remember Scrubs. In the middle of season 4, it took a mid-season break. When it came back, it was terrible. That did not happen here with Better Call Saul. So that's great. I will say, by the way, speaking of spoilers, out of curiosity, I did go online to see if any spoilers are out there. And I haven't seen any firsthand, but I've seen secondhand discussion of spoilers, where some people, I guess one person who was at the premiere wrote up a detailed synopsis of the episode. It wasn't me. And they've been sending it around. So I've seen people say on Reddit, like, oh, can you DM that to me? But I've also seen a lot of decoy spoilers. So hopefully there's enough of a smokescreen out there that no one's going to inadvertently get spoiled on the episode. Okay, so we're going to start by talking about kind of our experience of the premiere. But I just want to put out a tantalizing thing to look forward to in case you're not satisfied. You want to hear more about the episode, not just, oh, it was good. So one thing I will say later on in the podcast is episodes 4 through 6 of this season were largely considered setup episodes. A lot of people complained about the pacing. I think it's fair to say the pace picked up in episode 7. You didn't hear anybody complaining anymore. So you might be wondering, episode 8, are we going back to the humdrum setup of episodes 4 through 6, or does that intense pace continue? Will those episode 4 through 6 complainers continue to complain? I will answer that question with a simple yes or no at the end of the podcast. Again, for the spoiler reverse. And if you want to skip ahead, I'll put a chapter marker in the description. Okay, well, let's get into the overall experience. Daniel, why don't you go first? Just generally, your day yesterday. I mean, what was the experience like?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like, it was so exciting all day. And you and I kept talking about the fact that we both kept forgetting we were even seeing the episode. We were just so excited for the, like, event of it. And even then, it was funny because I don't think either of us thought through what the event entailed. Like, I was surprised when I got there and saw a red carpet. Like,
Right.
it did not occur to me that would happen.
Yeah.
And then the actors and the writers came out. Like, it was very cool.
You were even more surprised when the security guards were like, whoa, that's Gil from Saulcast. Everyone back up. Here's your spot on the red carpet.
And they wouldn't let me be near you. It was very uncomfortable. I was like, I'm part of One Take Two. Let me through.
They're like, you were on one episode of Saulcast. That doesn't count.
Hey, Gil reads comics. That's got to count for something.
That's true. That's a deep cut if anyone gets that. I joked about a red carpet. I was like, oh, we're going to see the red carpet. It's going to be great. But there was a red carpet when we got there. And it was pretty funny to see. Basically, anytime you see photos on the red carpet, there's always that wallpaper behind them, that whatever film festival or event they're at, it says the name of it over and over. So they had the Tribeca Film Festival wallpaper and just a bunch of cameras, each one from a different news outlet. So I think Ray Seahorn was the first one who walked out. She just stops at each camera, does like a few different poses, and then maybe walks over to the camera. I saw Extra was there asking some questions. Go to the next camera. Somebody else is asking some questions. Or someone holds up their phone with a piece of paper underneath as like an impromptu teleprompter, and they have to read something into the camera. So, I mean, that was really cool.
And so she had to go back to an earlier camera. Like, I don't know what process is happening there. But, she walked back and forth a few times.
Yeah, you locked eyes with Tony Dalton at one point, right?
I did. And with Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, so that's right now. Tony Dalton's on his podcast. Like, I saw Daniel from Saulcast. He looked right at me. I swear. But yeah, if we sound like super excited about this, I've never been to an event like this. When I first, can I say I moved to New York City? Is it weird to reveal that?
No, I think it's okay. Well, we already revealed it to one fan. So.
Yeah, exactly. When I first moved to New York City, my first thought was, all these film festivals. I'm going to go to all these festivals and see all these cool independent movies and everything. And I have not done that. So this was really the first sort of event like this I've been to. So it was just extremely exciting. And I had no idea this was happening. Somebody in our Discord mentioned, oh, I'm seeing episode 8 at Tribeca. And I was like, what? And I looked it up and I saw, I didn't know this was a thing, that at a film festival, they'll screen an episode of a TV show. And the funny thing is, I almost didn't even go. You talked me into it. You're like, are you kidding me? This is like the biggest show in your life. It's been pivotal in your existence. You love this show. Literally, the only opportunity you'll have in your life to go to a premiere of a Better Call Saul episode, and you're like, And so I was like, yeah, you're right. So we decided to go.
It didn't take too much convincing, to be fair. Once
true.
I pointed that out, you were like, oh yeah, let's definitely go.
Yeah.
And you paid for my ticket, so thank you.
Oh yeah, I got to Venmo you for that. That's considered a business expense, right?
Let's keep the IRS out of this
Depending on
conversation.
the reception of this episode. One funny thing that happened on the way to the premiere, had a pretty surreal experience because when we first started Saulcast, the only evidence that we had any listeners is a stats page where we did one episode, it had 20 downloads, the next one had 50 downloads, 60, and I was not convinced that any of those were actual human beings. I was like, that's a Google bot indexer. One of my friends in the audio industry told me that until you get above 300 listeners, you don't have any real listeners. It's all bots. So that became a milestone for me. So once we got over 300, I was like, okay, we have at least one real listener. Then eventually we started getting emails, we started getting comments, and then it started to feel a little bit more real. But yesterday on the walk to the venue, I forgot that when you get within like 5 to 10 blocks of a concert venue or a place where some kind of show is happening and you discuss that thing, there's like a 50% chance that anybody near you is going to the same thing and they're going to know what you're talking about. So we were talking about Better Call Saul, and somebody walked over and chimed in, and I couldn't help but notice you're discussing Better Call Saul. And then we talked a little bit more, and she was like, I recognized your voice. And she was a Saulcast listener. So finally, I can say for absolute certain that we have at least one real life listener that exists in the real world. And the one fun fact she shared that blew my mind is that apparently her mother is obsessed with the movie Wilder Napalm, which we did a review of that movie, Vince Gilligan's first movie, and I'll just say that I'm shocked that anybody would that would be on anybody's radar. That was just insane to hear. Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. Shout out to you if you're watching or listening. You're awesome, and it was a lot of fun meeting you yesterday. But yeah, eventually we walked into the theater, pretty crowded room, and Bob Odenkirk, Peter Gould, the rest of the folks that were on the panel were sitting a few rows in front of us. So I think we can genuinely say, like, we watched an episode of Better Call Saul with Bob.
Yeah.
You know, Bob Odenkirk.
But I think we had like the best seats imaginable, because even like Bob Odenkirk and the rest of the cast, like they were sitting like way closer to the screen. Like I feel like we were the perfect distance from the screen.
Yeah.
We were like 4 rows behind
Bob
them.
tried to trade with us, and I was like, get out of here, Bob. These are our seats, all right? You think you're a big shot?
I do want to point out I was in the exact same like seat column as Ray Seahorn.
That's
that was
right.
pretty exciting.
Locked eyes with her, definitely.
Actually, she's the only one I did not lock eyes with.
Then the movie started, or the movie. That's an interesting choice of words, though, because it felt like we were watching a movie.
I almost said movie before also.
Yeah. And I would say that watching Better Call Saul with an audience was a pretty awesome experience. And now, okay, for the very spoiler reverse, we'll talk a little bit about the experience of watching the movie. So we might talk about some things like how much or if the audience laughed at all. Or how much or if at all did the audience get excited by what was happening on screen. So, if you don't want to hear any of that, then, skip ahead like 2 minutes.
So we're going into spoilers now.
Well, just for the next minute or two, we're going into, not spoilers. If either of those two things would be considered spoilers, we're about to talk about that stuff.
Okay.
But I would say that watching with an audience, you get the same kind of buzz you would get watching The Avengers or No Way Home, which is such a weird experience because Better Call Saul is like a quiet character drama. Not the kind of thing you'd imagine watching with a big crowd, but there genuinely were a few crowd-pleasing moments or cheers. There were at least 2 or 3 instances where the entire theater broke out laughing, which was pretty cool because, again, the writer of the episode, Gordon Smith, was in the audience. So he gets to see, I assume he doesn't normally get to see this, but he now gets to see how people reacted to the episode. And in the panel, he talked about how some of those laughs were a nice surprise for him. He wasn't necessarily expecting them. But Daniel, any just thoughts you want to share on the experience of watching the episode, watching it with a crowd, watching it with Bob?
Yeah, it was like electrifying to watch it with an audience. It was really cool. And to have the cast like right there, right in front of us.
One thing I was curious about actually is, were they going to warn us not to spoil anything? Because it feels like such an uncontrollable situation. Because it's not like we were specially invited to go attend this premiere. Anybody could have attended. You just had to buy a ticket. So I was just curious about that. And basically what we got, I think on screen, there was a warning before it started that was like, do not discuss any plot specifics, right?
Yeah.
And then after it aired, the moderator said, like, please do not spoil anything. And Peter Gould said the same thing. He was like, don't ruin the episode. He's like, just tell people you loved it, how great it was watching it on the big screen. And then Bob Odenkirk interrupted to be like, yeah, okay, tell them about the size of the screen you watched it on. So if you saw me tweet, the only thing we're authorized to discuss is the size of the screen. That was a little inside joke between me and Bob, But I don't know, I guess anything else to say about the episode itself before we go into kind of the panel? We both said we liked the episode. I said I was going to discuss the pace a little bit. Should I just do that now, or should I save that? Because we've already kind of gone into slightly the shallow waters of spoiler territory, I guess. The episode has laughs in it, which I guess every episode of Better Call Saul has had laughs. But we've spoiled that. Do I go into it now?
Well, isn't the whole point to like force people to listen to the end of the podcast?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so to remind you, you're waiting to hear about the pacing of the episode. Yeah, so wait for that at the end, or click the chapter marker.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, you can blame Daniel for that one. But okay, the panel after the episode. One fun thing that made me laugh is I've not exactly complained, but joked about how if you listen to the Better Call Saul Insider podcast, the focus of the show is usually on fun behind-the-scenes stuff. How do we pull off that scene? Funny stories of things that happened. But sometimes they will get into, why did you put that in the episode? Or what was the meaning of this? And oftentimes they'll be discussing that. And I remember in the first episode, I forget exactly what, but they were talking about the meaning behind some image. And somebody interrupts to go, wait a minute. Hey, Bob, you learned how to make a cinnamon roll, right? And the same thing happened on the panel. It was an interruption, but that was one of the questions. And Bob once again told the story about learning how to make a cinnamon roll because they filmed at a Cinnabon. But speaking of Cinnabon, there was another fun fact that came out at the panel, which is that apparently it almost wasn't going to be a Cinnabon. Because you remember, that all came from a line in Breaking Bad where Jimmy, or at the time Saul Goodman, says, best case scenario, I end up working at a Cinnabon in Omaha or something like that.
6 months from now.
That's right, yeah. Wow, great memory, Daniel. So it was originally not going to be a Cinnabon. Do you remember what it was going to be?
A Hot Topic.
Yeah, apparently that was the original plan. Like Peter Gould was pushing for the line to be Hot Topic because that's just such a funny image, Saul Goodman at a Hot Topic. But the reason they decided not to do that is because the real life Hot Topic sells Breaking Bad merchandise. So they were afraid that would come off as kind of scummy, like go shop at Hot Topic.
Oh, a lot of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul like apparel worn to the premiere, by the way.
That's true.
Right? There were a lot of like masks. A lot of people had the what's his law school?
Oh, American Samoa.
American Samoa law school shirts or sweatshirts. I saw like 20 of those.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was, of course, wearing my One Take shirt. Gotta represent. Not really. I shaved. That was my attempt at disguising
And he
myself.
put on a hat and sunglasses, trying to hide his identity like Justin Bieber.
Yeah, basically, I was dressed up in a Heisenberg costume. I had top hat, sunglasses. One thing I'll mention is that one of the complaints Adams had the last few weeks is the cast and crew spoiling stuff. For example, Bob Odenkirk posted the selfie of him and Howard, and he had a little blood makeup on his hair. And so some people realized, oh, he's going to get shot in the head. And I don't blame Bob. It was an accident. But you and I, the entire panel, were so nervously looking at each other, just afraid they were going to spoil something. Because one thing they always do in these interviews or these panels, they'll ask probing questions like, what can you tell us about what's going to happen to Kim in the finale? And of course they can't answer, but you always get nervous if they're going to think they're being clever, hinting at something. And I'm like, that's not it. You just spoiled it, So you and I were just nervously looking at each other the whole time.
So many of the questions, you and I just like gave a look to each other like, oh, please, please, please.
Yeah.
Don't spoil it.
And at one point, you could tell Bob was being very careful. There was one question he asked where there was like a 10-second pause between every word. He was talking to Peter Gould, and he was like, so you're saying Saul? And he was just choosing his words so carefully. It was so funny.
I do just want to add, though, that like Bob is amazing. Like just seeing him in person, he is so talented.
Mm-hmm.
Like his ability to control a room. Like I thought he was so entertaining on the panel and like jumping in with tons of funny one-liners. And the fact that he could take like 20 seconds to ask a question and the whole auditorium is like silent.
Yeah.
I thought that was like really cool.
Yeah, he had a lot of great one-liners that just made the whole room laugh. Like there was the one about the big screen, which I thought was hilarious. There was another funny moment, actually, which I was about to mention, but one little bit of insight they provided. So the panel moderator asked the question, how much has Kim been influenced by Jimmy, and how much of her darker side was already there? So Ray Seahorn was the first to answer, and she said that she likes the fan discourse around it. She likes that it's kind of open to interpretation. So she somehow talked for like 2 minutes and didn't really answer the question. More just talked about how complex and interesting a character Kim Wexler is.
And she specifically said, though, that she didn't want to answer the question.
Right. But
she said she likes leaving it to her interpretation.
Right. And then Bob goes, can I give an answer to that? And he kind of just straight up said, it was already there. There was already a darker side to Kim, and she's so buttoned up because she's hiding something. And I mean, in my opinion, it's become pretty clear something was already there. The whole point, for me, one of the big points of having that flashback with her stealing the earrings was to basically say, here is the seed that maybe Saul woke up. And, maybe she kind of stuffed it down in her personality, and Jimmy just gave her the opportunity to wake that side of her back up. I mean, I'm assuming I see you nodding. Is that your read of it too?
I think so. I mean, it's funny that Kim said, or Ray Seahorn said, that she didn't want to like endorse a specific view of the character, but she did come out and say that she completely agrees with One Take's Understanding Kim Wexler video.
Yeah, that's right. It was weird that she brought that up.
Yeah, and then she she just read out the link to the video.
Yeah. I started shouting. I was like, I did not authorize you. Yeah, go to youtube.com/1347 index.php.
She remembered it. She had it from memory.
It's amazing. She had it tattooed on her arm. But here is actually another genuine piece of insight that I found pretty interesting. But she talked about the first time that we saw the Giselle side of Kim, season 2, episode 1, and I was impressed. She remembered that. So, like, I love seeing that, by the way. Just like the genuine interest these actors have in the show. If they know it, there are some shows or movies where, as a fan, you almost feel like you're being annoying. You're way more obsessed with it than the actors are. But here, like she says, season 2, episode 1, when we first meet Giselle, and Kim kind of pulls one of these scams for the first time, Tom Schnauz directed that episode. And she said to him, or I think he directed, and based on the story, I assume he did. She said to him, should I play this like Kim is not very good at pulling off the scam? Like, she's enjoying it, so she goes along with Jimmy, but she's not very good at it. And maybe Ken isn't that smart, so it's okay if we're not that good at it because he'll fall for it anyway. And Tom said to her something to the effect of, Kim will be great at anything she puts her mind to. So Kim played that scene like she's great at scamming. So that either tells you, A, Kim is good at anything that she decides to do, or B, she's got some experience. And I don't know if you asked Tom at the time what his answer would be, but at least the way it was played is in line with the idea that she's got some experience here.
Oh, wait, I actually never thought about that. I really just interpreted it as Kim is good at anything she tries, but you actually think, and I don't remember if you mentioned this in I don't think you said this in your video about Kim, like you think she actually has experience scamming.
Well, I think so, yeah, or at least some version of it. I mean, I would argue that stealing the rings was a version of scamming, and I would guess that she's done more of that since then. That's my current interpretation. But I will say, I think if you went back in time to season 2 and asked the writers, they wouldn't be sure if she had experience or not. And that's one of the things that Ray Seahorn said in the panel. She was quoting Peter Gould and basically him saying, character dictates plot on this show. And you always believe the choices they make. So, like, I've heard them talk about the fact that sometimes when they're in the room trying to figure out what happens next, they'll throw out a bunch of ideas, and maybe they'll throw out an idea where the character makes a choice to do something, and even if they don't fully understand why the character did that, if it feels true to the character and true to human nature, they kind of go with it. So that's why I think it's possible they didn't know Kim's full nature at the time, but yeah, Kim's good at the scam. And then maybe over time they realize, maybe Kim has a history of this. That's kind of my interpretation of the little snippets that they gave us in the panel and in other interviews.
Maybe this is a bit of a rabbit hole, so you don't need to go down it. But I'm curious if you have thoughts on, like, what was going to be the role of the Kim character if she didn't turn out to be this way? Or, like, if she didn't have this darker side, like, what would be the point of her character? Or would she have been less important in the show?
Well, I think that in the first season, she acted as sort of a pushback to Jimmy. She was the moral compass. Like, don't do that, But then I think you realize, and Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan have specifically talked about one really important moment in season 1. You already know what I'm going to say, right? All right, go ahead.
It's the moment when, I can't remember what Jimmy's doing.
Dude. I
set
it up on a tee
Jimmy's
for you.
at HHM. He does something.
No, way off.
And then Kim Smile. Oh, no. Jimmy's not at HHM. At HHM, they're talking about the billboard that Jimmy put up.
Right.
Where he has this look of like Howard Hamlin.
The series, the first instance of a body double. We had one body double in season 1 and then like 7 in season 6.
And they're talking about basically what Jimmy did, and Kim smiles.
Right. They're seeing a news report where
okay.
they faked Jimmy being a hero because the guy taking down the billboard falls. Jimmy runs up and rescues him. So Howard's like, what an a-hole. And Kim just kind of gets a little subtle smile. And I think that opened the door to her becoming a much more important character. I also think just seeing what the actress Ray Seahorn was capable of, seeing what she brought to the role, it showed them, hey, there's a bigger character here. It's really interesting. That happens a lot with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Jesse was never intended to be a main character throughout the entire series. If I remember correctly, he was supposed to die in season 1. So that happens a lot with this show. And I think that kind of proves that they live by that creed, that character dictates plot.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to believe in that creed if you're going to proceed that way, because that means you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like the writers don't know what the arc of the story is going to be if they're
Right.
going to allow character to dictate plots. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It seems like it's working out pretty well.
Another fun one is kind of similar where just a character just so unexpectedly shows up and becomes really important. But in season 2, I believe, when Jane dies in Breaking Bad, the cleaner shows up, Mike Ehrmantraut. You know, you woke up, you saw her, that's all you know. That was not supposed to be Mike originally. That was supposed to be Bob Odenkirk, Saul Goodman. But he was busy because he had a role on How I Met Your Mother. So they were like, we need another character here. They invented Mike, and then he's gone on to be so important. And now in Better Call Saul, too. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy. It's really cool.
By the way, Bob Odenkirk was also only supposed to be on like 3 episodes about Breaking Bad. I think. I read that
true? I have
earlier
no
today.
idea.
Well, can fact check me later, but I read that in his like Wikipedia article.
To be clear, the views expressed by Daniel are not reflective of the views of One Take or Saulcast.
Unless they turn out to be true.
Unless they turn out to be true. That's right.
But I think they were like so amazed by his performance, they decided to make him a recurring character. Is what I read somewhere, I think.
Okay. Yeah. We'll look that up.
We'll
Don't worry.
we'll bleep all that out if it's not true.
Just 3 minutes of so the one other thing that that kind of came up around the Kim character that was pretty funny is Ray Seahorn talked about how people will recognize her and come up to her and plead like, you got to do something about Kim. What are we going to do to help out Kim? She's crazy. She's going to get herself, in a lot of trouble with this Jimmy guy doing all these scams. And just how much people worry for the Kim character and talk to Ray Seahorn as if it's like a third party. And yeah, it was pretty funny.
I loved her reaction to it. Like she said that people come up to her and they're like, what are we going to do about Kim? She's going down Bad Choice Road. And Ray says, I know, it's horrible.
Yeah.
like to your point of just, it's cool that she seems to care as much as like fans do.
Yeah, exactly. There was also a lot of fun stuff about the Lalo character. So some fun tidbits. He auditioned with a mustache, and then when he came in, he didn't have a mustache, and they asked him to grow it back. And Peter Gould said the reason why is because it kind of gives him a Clark Gable, just classic movie star look that they enjoyed. And it works really well for the Lalo character because he's kind of all smiles. He has so much charm. So I think that was a great choice.
And the actor's explanation for it?
Yeah, he was like, it makes me look more Mexican. The character was obviously invented by that line Saul Goodman yells. This comes up every episode of Saulcast. I apologize for people being like, I know that he yells, Lalo didn't send you. It wasn't me. It was Ignacio. So he yells that in season 2, episode 8 of Breaking Bad. And of course they came up with, random names, Lalo, Ignacio. But Peter Gould mentioned that when they said Lalo, they thought of Lalo Schifrin, a composer who was very well known for music that he did or score for movies, like the Rush Hour trilogy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember any of the music from that trilogy.
Neither do I.
I mean, I watched it like 20 years ago.
But probably the most famous track is the Mission Impossible theme, was from Lalo Schifrin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He also apparently wrote a score for The Exorcist, or at least a few minutes of a score, which I think was used in the trailer, but it was deemed too scary, and they fired him.
Is it a spoiler to mention the last thing they said about Lalo, the composer?
No, I've got it in my notes here. You can mention it.
All right, are they using one of his? They're either using one of his songs or he composed something for one of the later episodes in this season.
Well, so he said that. So Peter Gould said that one of his favorite cuts coming up, because he loves this composer apparently.
Yeah.
One of his favorite musical cuts That's a weird phrasing. Yeah, there's going to be a special musical episode of Better Call Saul coming up.
Just like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, exactly. But there's going to be a Lalo Schifrin piece at some point in the remaining episodes of Better Call Saul. So you heard it here first. That's probably an exclusive. So Peter Gould told us that himself.
He did say not to tell anybody else, so if you could just keep that under wraps.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, so here it is. You've all been waiting very patiently. Speaking of pacing, I've slowly paced this episode to get to the question. Okay.
Should I ask a 10-second Bob
This is the Bob Odenkirk, like being afraid to spoil the show
style
slow roll question. Okay. The question that we're going to now answer. The people who complained about the pacing of episodes 4 through 6, will they complain about the pacing of episode 8? We're going to answer that question right now. Daniel, what's your answer to that question?
One clarifying question.
Okay.
Are these the types of people who just complain about everything? Or is this like a genuine complaint about the pacing?
It's like your everyday Adam.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. These are the people that like the show but weren't happy with the pace of 4 through 6.
They will be happy with the pacing.
Well, the question was, will they continue to complain?
Oh, they will stop complaining.
So the answer is no. They will be happy, is my opinion.
I agree.
You heard it here first. Quote from One Take. No, ... Yes, they will be happy. That's what I think. Okay, I have one other question for you. So in a recent roundtable with Hollywood Reporter, it's a pretty cool article, actually. They had, I forget who was in the roundtable, but Ben Stiller was there talking about Severance. Peter Gould was there. And it was just a collection of people that work on big shows just having a moderated conversation. And at one point, they talked about the pressure of ending a big series like Better Call Saul, which is crazy because there's a lot of pressure on it because you're not just ending Better Call Saul, but at least for the foreseeable future, you are ending the Breaking Bad universe. So Peter Gould talked about that, and he basically said, I don't like to think of it as a finale. There's not one final beat that wraps up the series. There's not one final episode, but the conclusion to the series takes place over a few episodes. So I interpret that almost like the finale is not one episode. The finale is like a 5 or 6 part episode. And having seen season 6, episode 8, do you feel like it's in line with that philosophy?
Ooh, I'm trying to think about how I can answer this with, I think it is in line with that philosophy.
Yeah.
I think, can I say a lot happened?
Mm-hmm. Well, we said it's fast-paced.
It's fast-paced. I think given the show is all about character, I do think, that can sort of be resolved over several episodes.
Yeah.
Right? Because given the pacing is picked up at the end of the first half of the season, right, there's a lot to resolve in terms of what do characters think and feel about these things.
Right.
And that is something that can take a few episodes to help you understand.
Right. Well, and that's one thing I have endlessly praised the show for. And I said this on the review of episode 7, but I feel like most shows save the twist or save the really exciting thing for the finale, kind of the opposite of Peter Gould's approach. So in any other show, Howard would have been killed in the last episode or at best the second to last episode. Now we have 6 episodes of fallout. Because for me, especially in a character-driven show, the plot is, I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't care about the plot. Of course I do. But more interesting is what happens to the characters in their minds. How do they psychologically deal with these things? And so the trauma happened with 6 episodes to go. So that's a bold choice, and that's an awesome choice. And some people have gotten mad at me for saying things like that because it's like I'm denigrating every other show out there. For all I know, Succession does this great, you know? I've only seen a couple episodes of that. There might be other shows that do this like in a great way, maybe even better than Better Call Saul. I don't know. But at least of the shows I've seen, that feels like a pretty bold and impressive choice.
Well, I think, and I'll plug one of your video essays, the meaning of meaning. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, well, it's been renamed a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you talk about, right, there's like 2 layers to understanding films or TV shows. Mm-hmm. One layer is like assessing the plot and just understanding like what happened.
Right.
And the other layer is like, what's the meaning of it all? Mm-hmm. Or like, what's the message? Right. And I think like with Better Call Saul, like the plot is cool, but it's so much like I'm so much more interested in what does this do to Jimmy? Like
Right.
what does this make Jimmy think? What does this make Kim think? Right. And so I mean, realistically, there could be almost no other, even from the end of the first half of the season,
Yeah.
there could be almost no more plot that happens.
Right.
And I think the show could still be fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. If I had one complaint about episode 8, this show is great because it you can't really classify it in one genre: drama, comedy, thriller. But I think introducing the sci-fi genre this late in the game, I mean, aliens, time travel, you name it. It's a little bit much. Like I said, very fast paced. That was a joke. There might be time travel. I'm not spoiling it. Maybe not.
There could be. There
Yeah.
might be.
All right, with that, any other thoughts on our overall experience? The subway afterward, there was a weird high-pitched screeching noise.
Yeah, I mean
that was pretty annoying.
that was rough. Was it after? It was after.
Bob and Peter really wanted to be on the episode. I was like, this is Saulcast, okay? It's not the Insider podcast. You can go there if you want, but this is a one-take show, okay? Bob's actually off camera right now, but there you go. All right, any other thoughts, Daniel?
There's a very long line for the bathroom.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Hey, I hope people enjoyed it. It is like, I feel like you just watched the tap dancing show of a lifetime, because we were tap dancing around spoilers and all the stuff leading up to us actually talking about the episode. Like I said, I've never been to an event like this, so like the little details are always very intriguing to me. Like, do they tell you not to spoil the episode? I would be very curious to know, like, what did they say? So hopefully there's other people out there who find it just as interesting. But if not, chapter markers, timestamps, it's all good. All right, it's all good, man. Okay, so just a few quick plugs before we wrap up. This will be posted on the main One Take channel, but if you enjoy these kind of long-form discussions, most of those are getting posted over on the One Take podcast channel. And like I said, we talked about Wilder Napalm. Every Monday night, we normally do, after Saul airs, we would do the instant take. But even while Better Call Saul has been off the air, we've still been doing live streams every Monday night, just talking about what we're working on, talking about whatever people want to bring up in the chat. What did we think of the Barry finale? You're going to have to watch those live streams. And on the podcast itself, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be doing a discussion on Blade Runner. Like, if you want to talk about Blade Runner, we are going to do a crazy detailed deep dive into that episode. Should be posted in the next few days, just in time for the 40th anniversary, which will be June 25th. Sign up for the Discord. We have literally 24/7. There is just a room of other Better Call Saul fans, people that are part of the One Take community, just chatting. I'll put a link in the description. What else?
And there's some of the smartest Better Call Saul fans out there, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you want to be part of that community,
well,
join the Discord.
You will have to take an IQ test first, score above a certain number. You'll have to take a Voight-Kampffman. What's the test called?
Oh, the test to see if you're a replicant?
You have to take the Voight-Kampff test and an IQ test to be allowed into the One Take Discord.
And a Turing test.
There you go. All right. With that, there's more Better Call Saul content on the way. At the latest, of course, July 11th, we'll be back with our normal instant take, where we'll finally get to talk about what actually happened in this episode. That'll be followed by the full detailed conversation and more Better Call Saul video essays. So with that, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for more. And if you're listening to it, and you want to, look at this guy. Don't you want to turn that frown upside down? If you want to do that, go into the Apple Podcast app, leave a rating or review for Saulcast, leaving a rating or review for the One Take podcast. Because I don't know if that's confusing. There's two different podcasts here. Saulcast is where all the Better Call Saul content goes. And for all the general stuff, like Blade Runner, that's on the One Take podcast. I mean, look, Better Call Saul is going to wrap up in a few weeks. Like 3 years from now, we can't have a podcast called Saulcast. That would be really weird. Okay?
I agree.
With that, I'm Gil.
I'm Daniel.
And this is Saulcat. Hey.
It got weird.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I was supposed to say it with you.
Yeah, take two.
Sorry.
I'm Gil.
I'm Daniel.
And this is Saulcast. Special mid-season break edition. All right.
It got weird again.
I don't know why I did that.
Should we do it one more time just in case?
It's all right. There was, okay, I just remembered. There was at one point, the moderator asked each person on the panel to describe in one word how they would describe the rest of the season. And Bob Odenkirk, you and I were so nervous. Yeah. Looking at each other like they're gonna spoil it. They're gonna spoil the ending of the show. And I don't know, Bob Odenkirk he was like, can I get permission to give 3 words? And he gave a 3-word answer that I don't know, it felt like it could have been kind of spoilery. So I don't even know if I should share it here. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to say it. And maybe I'll say it after the episode actually airs because then everyone's caught up. Maybe I should cut all this out. I don't know.
But it's still a spoil. Like, even after the episode airs, it might be a spoiler.
Yeah.
But even me saying that could be a spoiler. But we don't know what any of this means.
Okay, I'm going to say this. I do not want to be responsible. Like, what if Bob Odenkirk is like, I shouldn't have said that? And then we say it, and he's like, oh.
You know what? Look, if
he's going to pull a Howard and say, I'm going to make it my life's mission to destroy you, Gil.
If you want to know what he said, I'm sure you can find it somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
But one take's not the place for it.
Yeah. Get out of here. Now, if I see another major publication report those 3 words, then we can talk about it.
Should we say what word he used?
I don't remember. What word did he use?
Multichromatic.
Gordon Smith said that.
What did Peter Gould say? Psychologically disturbing?
No, Ray Seahorn said that.
Oh.
And that was reported by another outlet I saw.
Okay.
Not that I said another outlet. We're not an outlet. We're a humble YouTube channel. We're like the mom and pop of TV and film coverage.
Soon to be an outlet.
Yeah, mom and pop stores go out of business all the time, right? Oh, yeah, so what did Peter Gould say? I don't remember.
No. Wait, Gordon Smith is his name, right?
Yeah.
He didn't say anything because he said, I only wrote this episode. I don't know what happens in the rest of the season.
No, he said
No, that was Peter Gould.
All right, well, I don't know. I guess anybody else who was there, like the fan that we gave a shout out to earlier, if you want to send a message, what did Peter Gould say? I don't remember.
I think I'm right. If I'm right, one takes mine. It's my channel now.
Sure.
I apologize to everybody in advance.
All right.